Welcome to Pimpy's Investment Chat, where we keep investment talk simple. And here's your host, Pimpy.
What is going on out there, peeps? All right, let's get back over into Iraq because, man, there's a lot of politicking going. I'm very curious to see the outcome. I've been keeping a close eye on solder and the coordination framework. Coordination framework is trying like heck to be part of this government, but they also want to try to control who gets in and who doesn't, which is not what solder wants. And there are a lot of people within the coordination framework that want Maliki to be part of this government. Solder ain't having it. I told you he has a lot of issues with Maliki, and rightfully so. Before we continue, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channels, and I surely do appreciate it. Right now, with everything going on in the market, you should be considering buying gold and silver. That's right. And when you do, give a consideration to our friends over that Money Metals Exchange. The link is down below in the description. If you are a first-time buyer and you spend more than $100, use promo code Pimpy, P-I-M-P-Y, and you will get a free half ounce of silver. Things are quite going the way the coordination framework was hoping. So much so that they're actually reaching out to Sistani on this one. He's the religious leader. Now, he is a guy that usually doesn't like getting involved in politics whatsoever, but he has, ever since the reputation of the Shiites been getting damaged, especially when Maliki was in office. Maliki had really carved out a bad name. We're talking about corruption, shooting of citizens, and then partnering up with Iran. Not very good, but that isn't going to keep them from going over and trying to talk Sistani into doing something to resolve the issues between the coordination framework and solder. I just can't see anybody out there changing solder's mind. He is determined, in my opinion, to punish those individuals who really just screwed over the Iraqi people while they were in office. I'm talking about Maliki's people, and especially Maliki. This is why solder wants nothing to do with him whatsoever. The framework requests the mediation of Sistani to resolve the dispute with solder, and close to the reference clarifies. So here's my question. So they want to go talk to Sistani. Let's say they do. What happens if Sistani says, yeah, you know what? I agree with solder. Then what? Are they going to stop whining? Are they going to finally back down? There's actually a lot more pressure coming from Iran at the moment on these Iranian puppets. So much so that they actually sent over the Quds Force commander to try to talk to solder. My guess it was an intimidation thing. Again, Iran trying to get their mitts into what's going on in Iraq. We all know that the true goal is to turn Iraq into an Islamic state. Said two sources from within the coordination framework reported on Sunday that the framework forces submitted a request to the religious authority, Sistani, to intervene to resolve an ongoing dispute with the leader of the Solderist movement. One of the sources told the news the coordination framework forces collectively submitted to Sistani a referendum in the form of a request for intervention from the reference regarding the dispute between the framework and solder. Again, remember, Sistani is the person who said, look, religious people should not be involved in politics except for when called upon to ask about the religious ramifications of a decision that's being made. So, other than that, they really don't want to be involved. Now, solder is getting very involved, obviously. He is a nationalist, he is pro-Iraqi, and he does not want any outside interference. He's made that perfectly clear. He's not going to allow them to interfere with what's going on with this government he is forming, but he's also making sure that the corrupt people don't get back in office. I'm really curious to see how this thing pans out over the next few years, and I'm curious to see how quick, once the government is absolutely formed and they start moving forward, how long is it going to take before we start to see an investigation into Maliki, unless something is resolved? Something has to be done about the corrupt politicians. That's everywhere, including here. Here's the talk of the town. Everybody's talking about a rate change. I'll give you some things to think about, that's for sure. Said a deputy reveals a set of options regarding the 2022 budget, including the price of the dollar. So the deputy revealed the options for the 22 budget, including the price of the dollar. Okay. The current deputy and member of the finance committee in the former parliament revealed today, Sunday, a set of options regarding the 2022 budget, including the dollar exchange rate. We expect to send the budget to the House of Representatives immediately after the formation of the government, noting that there are a number of options presented to it, including to send the budget as prepared by the current government or to make some changes in prices, exchange the dollar, or the exchange rate will be kept according to the financial management law of 12 to 1, and this is somewhat unlikely. So, something to think about. Now, Sauter was not a fan of when they devalued the Iraqi dinar. He also told everybody that he was going to do something about that if he got control of the government. Now, exactly what that is, who knows? Because the truth of the matter is, the Central Bank of Iraq is separate than the Iraqi government. So I don't know what type of influence Sauter's going to have over the exchange rate, but we're definitely going to see what's going on. Now, I still think what's going to happen is you're going to see the dinar go up in value, but it's going to happen in increments, and it's going to happen over a period of time. But having said that, there is something to consider. Although I think if they do change the rate, it'll go back to where it was before. Right now, you can get 1,450 dinars for every $1. And prior to that, before they devalued it, you used to get 1,190 dinars for every dollar. I think that's what we're going to do, is we're going to turn around and just put it back to the original rate. Now, there is a couple of things that have crossed my mind that makes me go, maybe they might value the dinar a little bit more than that. A couple of things to take in consideration and to remember. Iraq is no longer paying Kuwait money. All that money now stays within Iraq to use to do whatever they want. In addition to that, the price of oil keeps going up, meaning there's going to be a lot more revenue coming into Iraq than before. Now, does that mean they could change the rate to something outrageous like a total RV or an RI? I don't think so. I don't think it's quite there yet. Not yet. And the reason why I say that is this. They still rely too much on oil sales for their money. Now, had they had a more diverse form of revenue streams, I would probably consider it. But until they do something with the private sector and get away from just counting so much on oil, you're not going to see any major changes in the rate, because it doesn't take very much for something to happen and all of a sudden the value of oil drops and then Iraq is screwed, okay? But having said that, again, they're not paying Kuwait any money anymore, and the value of oil is much higher. We know that they're finally setting up the, the sovereign fund for future generations. That's coming into play as well. And they still owe some money to about 12 different countries. That doesn't amount up to very much money. As a matter of fact, they could pay all those off in one big payment if they wanted to. So Iraq, in my opinion, is in a very good place. As long as they can get this whole government resolved without conflict, as long as the country stays stable, secure, no ISIS issues, no terrorist issues, no outside interference from Iran, keep the country safe and stable, but they are in a very good place. I'm starting to almost change my opinion on where the rate change might happen. Not an RI or an RV, don't get me wrong. But you might see a little bit better than it going all the way to 1,190 dinars. I believe the lower value that we've seen in the past takes it down to 1,050 dinars for every dollar, which would be a pretty good little drop. It doesn't sound like a lot, and I know people are jumping up and down going, no, we want an RI or an RV, Pimpy. Come on, man, let's stay within the boundaries here. We know what's going on. Like I said, you're not going to get an RI or an RV until they do something about not having to rely on oil as much as they do. So the more the private sector gets built, the more they can generate income from other sources, then it's more likely. But until then, you're just going to see the dinar move up and down in increments. So I do think you're going to see the dinar value. I think you're going to see the dinar increase in value. But I think you're going to see it somewhere between 1,190 dinars And there is a good possibility they'll take it down to where it was before, which is 1,050 dinars. So that's the direction we want it to go in, just in case you guys are wondering. The lower, the better. And I think they have the ability to do it. There's a lot of money staying within Iraq, and they don't have very much debt. Like I said, if they wanted to, those countries, they could just pay them off and get it over with, meaning they have no more outside obligations, and I could just focus on country. So looking forward to it. So the next session of Parliament is going to be interesting because they're voting in the president. They're going for it. And right now, look at Iraq Parliament is moving to choose Zabari instead of Saleh. That's interesting. So this whole next session is going to be focusing on this, according to this article. It says an informed political source told the news that the Iraqi parliament session scheduled to be held next week will witness passing the presidents of the republic and the ministries in one basket. That's right. And in case you guys haven't heard, Sadr has put forward Al-Kadhimi as the prime minister. I think those two really have the same goal, which is go after those individuals who are guilty of a lot of corruption and really hurt the Iraqi people in a lot of different ways. I think they both want that in the first place. I know Al-Kadhimi wanted it when he first got into office, and now he's got Sadr there. If he gets in there, that you can count on that. Both of them going full head of steam after Maliki and all those other corrupt people. They're going to open up the corrupt files. We got the session getting ready to happen. You're going to see the presidents being voted in. Once they do that, then what are we waiting for? You got to wait for the prime minister. And once he's voted in, it's on like Donkey Kong. All you have to do is put in a cabinet member and their government will be installed. And then it's time to move forward and put these people in action. And we're going to see Sadr's true agenda come out in light. Anyways, that's it for now. You guys keep your fingers crossed. That's for dang sure. Yep. I'm starting to think now these increments might be a little higher. Now, again, it's just my opinion. But with as much money as they were putting in every month to pay Kuwait, and as high as oil costs are going, they're getting a nice little chunk of money coming right back to them. We just need them to put it more into private sectors. We need to get away from relying too much on oil. That's it for now. You guys hit the thumbs up button if you're not a subscriber. Please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel. And I actually do appreciate it. And I'll catch you later. I'm out.